On.
What is up, everybody? No, you don't have to pinch yourself. No, you're not dreaming. Yes, this is a new episode of the HeelCast. It's only been about a month or so, but we're glad to be back. I am joined by Robert from Robert Does Wrestling. How you doing tonight, Robert?
Yeah, I'm kind of tired, but pumped to talk about some Impact Wrestling news because the world of Impact Wrestling have been on fire in the last week. So, how about you, Hurls?
Oh, I can't wait to watch some Bound for Glory in October. I think that event's going to be great. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of the Impact Wrestling, I want to give some quick shout outs. First shout out, I gotta give a shout out to you, Robert. You just recently did a podcast with the Taxman. Is that correct?
Yes, with on his show, the Six Sided Podcast. If you haven't heard it, as soon as you finish listening to this, go ahead and check that out. It was a insane conversation, and the way I went nuclear on a couple of guys that I hated, it was hilarious and very truthful. So that was fun.
That is awesome. Hopefully, you can bring some of that nuclear energy here tonight, because I'm sure you got some left over. So
Yeah.
we would love to hear it. Before we go, before we go into that, let's give some more shout outs to Numeral 47. Yes, he used to be on this podcast. I tried to get him back. I don't know what it is. He keeps denying me. So I don't know. Maybe it's just let bygones be bygones there. But Numeral 47, want to give a shout out to. He's been at Diva Dirt now for 4 years. I think that's a pretty cool stat. So congratulations to Numeral 47 for making it for 4 years. Also want to give a shout out to the Wrestling Perspective. It's a podcast with Petey Williams. Check that one out. Check out impactasylum.net. It's the safe haven for all Impact Wrestling fans. But you know what? I think in the IWC, Impact isn't such a dirty word as it was a year ago or even
Mm,
2 years ago.
no.
So maybe you don't need a safe haven anymore. So, yeah, definitely go to impactasylum.net. Also, I just did a review of Bad Intentions on this channel, the HeelCast. So make sure you check that out. I also did one for Uncivil War, and I did one for AML Wrestling versus Impact Wrestling. So I think it was called Confrontation. So check those out. I'm gonna hopefully getting a new Lucha Underground episode very soon, possibly this week. I know a lot of people like that, so I will try to get one done this week. So other than that, Robert, do you have any other shout outs you want to give?
Not really. The next thing that I have in mind is that I'm doing a little bit of a video with the Impact Dude. That is like a super secret project for the moment. And I'm also doing another one with Raven Effect, but we haven't shot that video down, so it is still on work. But be on the lookout. That is gonna be something very special.
And I also want to ask you too. Do you guys are you still doing the Bodega podcast?
Yes, 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 yes. We're doing it weekly. This week the show should be dropping also tomorrow, and we're doing basically like two teams, me and Jorge, and the other team being Larkin and Chef.
Okay, and now is this podcast in English or Spanish
N-
or a little bit of both?
Yeah, no, it's mainly on English, but there's a lot of Spanish words and stuff along those lines.
Okay, very cool, very cool. I also want to give an update to our retro review crew listeners. Yeah, we're a small fan base right now, but we're hoping to gain some more viewers. But be patient. I'm hoping this week we are finally going to review Super Mario Kart from the Super Nintendo. So haven't forgot about it. It's just been some things have come up, and yeah, so that episode should be coming out to you shortly. All right, I think that's it for shout outs and plugs. So let's dive in. And before we do dive in, I just want to note that this episode of the HeelCast is just news only. We are not going to be reviewing any of the we're not going to be reviewing this past Impact since it's kind of so far in the week. Next week, we're hoping to get our regular format back where we will do the news and then review the show. But this is just going to be strictly on the news, which is fine because we have a ton of news to talk about. So first things first, let's talk about Bound for Glory selling out. Robert, give your thoughts on that.
Great news. Yeah, that pumps a lot of people, and also it makes the promotion looks hotter. So that's good. That's excellent stuff, especially on a pay per view, the biggest pay per view of the year. How about you, Hurls?
Oh yeah, it's I mean, I'm not really sure what the venue looks like. I don't know if it's necessarily a big one, but like I said, it instead of just trying to fill these big arenas and you're not going to sell it out, might as well just get the smaller ones right now and just kind of keep building your fan base back up because eventually I think the big arenas will come. But right now you just need to focus on earning back everybody's trust, which I think they're doing a really good job of. And the fact that Bound for Glory did sell out a month in advance, I think is a really good sign. So let's hope that more people will buy tickets to the following TV tapings that are going to be going on October 15th and October 16th. But this is really cool that Impact has had no issues selling out their pay-per-views as of late. So I think that's a major plus.
Yeah.
All right. So the second bit of news, we had some rumors that WWE was interested in Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix. However, it looks like they are not going to be able to sign them because they have Lucha Underground contracts well into 2019. So at least for 2019, it looks like these two are going to be staying put with obviously Impact, MLW, and Lucha Underground. Robert,
Yeah,
please
that
tell me you're as happy as I am about that.
yeah. That's good. Great news. Great news. Also, by the way, Killer Cross is on the cross lines of Vince McMahon. He also wants him, but I don't actually see him jumping ship to World Wrestling Entertainment anytime soon because he's doing stuff on Impact, on Lucha Underground, and also on Mexico. So I don't also see him jumping ship. What are your
Yeah, and
thoughts
that's all.
on? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. You
He
had.
he he. He's also going to be showing up on that new Ring Warriors show, which is paid programming that's on WGN, I believe, on Saturday mornings. So he's also on there. I think right now, if you're outside of WWE, there's a really hot market right now for wrestlers that can go on multiple different TV programs. I think it's a good idea to build up your name. Um, I think Killer Kross, I think Impact really wants to keep Killer Kross because I think he's a very special talent. And I think Impact, hopefully they have big plans for him. And the fact that WWE is interested in him obviously shouldn't surprise anyone because he's a hell of a talent and he's made such a big debut already within the first 3 months that he's been in the company. As far as Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix go, it should be no surprise. I mean, those two, I mean, have been just tearing it up all over the U.S. and Mexico, and they've really made a name for themselves. I mean, Pentagon's facing Kenny Omega, in at All In, he faced him, and I mean, it's just been tremendous. All the feedback he's been getting and the fan response to him. So I think it is a smart move for them to just keep building upon the momentum they have already created. I think WWE right now is very bloated. I don't see why you would want to go there and just kind of put your name out there just to be maybe used as a possible mid carder, because I don't know if WWE would put them in main events, especially Pentagon Jr., who's uh, his English isn't so well, and we know how WWE treats people who don't speak great English. It's not very good. So, in my opinion, all three of them guys need to stay put and keep building their name out of the WWE.
Yeah, and also
So,
also when you get there, you get treated better, and your chances of failing, drastically go down. But if you go there like Killer Cross, who is on the up and up, but have never been at the top of the mountain, no, that is a bad idea. At least for my point of view. Obviously, I'm not him, and he could do whatever the hell he wants. But that would be the safe stuff. Stay with Impact, build your brand, and one day you're gonna be at the top of the mountain.
correct. I,
Yeah.
I, I agree. I think Impact, Impact's going to keep rising. I think Ring of Honor and New Japan clearly keep rising. If this keeps up, there's a lot of reason for WWE to be, kind of scared. So I guess that leads me into my next one, Mahabali Shera. Yeah, the man that did the Shira Shuffle in Impact Wrestling, former Ring King heavyweight champion. He also won, I think it was the India Battle Royal when Impact went to India last year. He signed with WWE, I want to say, back in February of this year,
Yes.
and we thought it was kind of interesting because he did get released from Impact about somewhere, I want to say, maybe mid 2017. Well, his run in WWE has already come to an end. He was released today. He only apparently had a few matches. Uh, Robert, what do you think? I want to ask you, it's two questions. What do you think about him getting released from WWE, and do you think there's any interest in Impact in bringing him back?
Yeah. As I'm speaking, I'm doing the share a shuffle. So just in case you're wondering,
Oh,
so
oh
uh,
wow.
yeah, yeah, you gotta stay real with Dixie and Mahabali Shera. That's the funniest gift in Impact Wrestling history for a while, right? So speaking about Mahabali Shera, yeah, he got the physique, he got the height, right? But he's missing like basically the positioning and the strikes, and I don't think anyone have been able to picture how to make him change his ways in order to be a professional wrestler who is TV ready. That would be my observation. I'm not a wrestling coach or anything along those lines. But outside of that, he understands how to do the moves and run the ropes and all the other stuff. So I think they gave up on the guy too quick, to be honest, on NXT. And I get it because they have like 300 guys over there. But at the end of the day, most of them are, little wrestlers. Like, everybody's cruiserweights over there. So actually, you should appreciate that you have someone who's a big dude and from India. So, a place that every time you are able to get a guy from India over, you're gonna get a lot of eyes on your product and a lot of views on YouTube and stuff along those lines. As for Mahabali Shera returning to Impact Wrestling, I could see him joining the Desi Hit Squad in the future, right? But I think if they were gonna bring him back, I think the best thing they could do is pair him up with Sanjay Dutt. If Sanjay Dutt is gonna still be wrestling, why? Because as the couple of matches that I have seen that have been good from Mahabali Shera have been tag matches, multi-man matches. Why? Because he gets like the comeback and that type of stuff. What he doesn't have is the positioning and the punches, like I said at the beginning. But if you're able to build a tag team, what is called like the tank and the Porsche, right? You got the tank being Mahabali Shera, and you got the Porsche being Sonjay Dutt. You can basically hide his deficiency and make him seem better than he actually is as a solo wrestler. That would be my way to do things. And hell, if you're not sure about that, you can send him as your ambassador to anywhere in the world of any promotion that Impact Wrestling have, partners with. Oh hell, they can send it to Scott Demore. If Scott Demore was able to get a good match out of the football guy, I'm sure if he gets Mahabali Shera, he could do something better than NXT did. But at the end of the day, my thought is that the guys at NXT gave up on the guy too quick. How about you, Hurls? I talked like
Yeah.
too much. Go ahead, you had the floor.
Oh yeah, no, I just think like Impact, like I mean, there was a point when they brought him in. I mean, they really made him a big deal, and they spent a lot of time trying to get him to progress in the ring and trying to hone his skills. I think it would be if I think it's a smart idea to bring him in with the Desi Hit Squad, because that way you could have a solo wrestler combined with Gursinder Singh and Rohit Raju. You could have him be like the guy that could go in the heavyweight division. Mahabali Shera, the problem with him was he was just always a little too green. He did have timing issues. He had issues with selling. He had issues with striking. I'm guessing that's why he got released from WWE. He must have not improved enough for them, because I thought WWE was really trying to build upon that Indian market. So it is interesting that he already has been released. As far as Impact, though, they spent so much time on him. I mean, I think maybe one more chance to see if he can, pull it together, so to speak. I'm not. I mean, I wouldn't mind it. I don't think I don't think he's like big money, but I mean, he did. He tried. He definitely tried to improve. So, um, I just say why not? Why not give him the guy a chance? So
Yeah,
that's
and
my
and also
thoughts.
by having a crew with him around the ring and a manager, obviously that helped the guy a lot. That helped him, look more legit that he actually is, and make him seem better in the ring. So if they're gonna bring him with the Desi hit squad and try something. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. You gave the guy a second try and it didn't work. So go back to the drawing board and get more time on the road on the indies, and then one day if you're polish enough, you can get back.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's what harm. I mean, I know. I think Dixie was really high. That whole uh, management was high on him, and I think they were trying to make him into something, but something just never really worked out. So, um,
Yeah, and
yeah,
speaking of people getting released, so Andrew Everett asked for his release from Impact Wrestling, and he was granted that, and he tweeted that stuff, and he's now testing the waters on the free market. What are your thoughts on it, Hurls?
yeah. I think the whole thing with Andrew Everett is they did a lot of. I mean, they did a lot of start and stop pushes with him. I'm not going to deny that. A lot of it was the changing of the management. He was probably going to take the title away from Trevor Lee if the um, the Gaburik era maybe have stuck around a little bit more. I could have saw him getting the X Division title there. But it kind of seemed to change when Jarrett came in. He had a little different plans for the X division. But I mean, when Don Callis and Scott D'Amore took over, you had him kind of just get thrown into the tag team division with DJZ, and they're called Z&E. But they won the titles so quick, but then they lost them, and then they never were used after that. So I don't really know what the issue was there. Um, Andrew Everett he's a very, very good athlete, can fly, but and I don't know. It's just his body. It's awkward to me. I don't know. I don't really know. I think he has to work on that if he wants to be taken seriously. And he never really kind of stood out to me. I think he's always kind of Trevor Lee's tag team partner, or he was with DJZ, but he always kind of seemed in the background, so to speak. Uh, he was never really the main guy in either of those teams, and he can do a lot of cool stuff, but like I said, he's just he's got to work on his tone. Um, I truly think that. I'm not trying to be mean to him. I'm just saying what I think that he needs to improve on.
or
What do you think, Robert?
or that, or change your ring attire. Hell, you can change your ring attire like the double, like like the one that Rhino used to wear, or RBD, something along those lines, and he's gonna look a lot better. It doesn't
Yeah,
necessarily have to be, that he's gonna get like a six pack or anything along those lines, but his look, the look he's rocking right now, it doesn't help him, right? Let's be
right.
fair. That's the way of things, right? And you're on TV. Everybody, even though there's people saying no, you shouldn't judge people when you whatever. Everybody's judging everybody. Stop being
Right,
full of
right.
shit and trying to fool people. Of course not. So that is something that I guess it help him down would be the thing. But he's a very good talent. But I think, especially now that there's gonna be a couple of new high flyers, especially from Mexico, I think obviously the obvious idea was, hey, let's book our biggest high flyer over here, Andrew Everett, with a couple of matches with those guys, but that didn't seem to materialize. So, and it is what it is. So, to be honest, I totally see him returning to Impact Wrestling like in 2 to 3 years, most likely with a new look, with a new attitude, and he's gonna climb. He's gonna get at the top of the Impact Wrestling mountain, just like something like let's say Sanjay Dutt. That type of history, I totally see that happening with Andrew Everett.
Yeah, I think that Andrew Everett, he definitely can go out and maybe create something a little bit better for himself. I'm not sure if WWE would be interested in him or not. I think maybe trying Ring of Honor again might be good for him. I'm not sure if New Japan would be interested, but who knows? You never know. It's always a potential possibility. So,
Yeah, and
so
speaking of doing a lot of flips, right? A lot of flips. Let's go let's talk about the place that was the genesis of that type of wrestling, and we're talking about the Mexican wrestling talent and Impact Wrestling entering the Mexican wrestling talent by first having a TV show over there and now also touring over there. What are your thoughts on this, Hurls?
Well, I was actually going to ask you, what is the TV deal that Impact just got over there? What's the channel that they are broadcasted on?
I'm not sure. I don't get that channel over here. What I get a lot, it is like something a little bit more local, but I could find that information in a second. Give me a second. But keep talking
Okay.
about Impact in Mexico.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great move. I'm glad they're actually taping an Impact in Mexico because I think that's really cool. I mean, WWE barely even does it, so I think what we're gonna see next week is going to be really, really cool. There was a time when we had the random matches. They would take us to Mexico, the one with Eli Drake and James Storm in it. I remember that one, but it's going to be cool to actually have the first ever Impact from Mexico. I think that's going to be really cool. I think 2017 we went to India. This year we went to Canada, and now Mexico. So that's going to be really, really, really interesting to see how that goes over.
So
So I'm looking forward to it.
so they're on channel 52 Mexico, and they're airing Saturdays at 9:30 p.m.
Oh, okay, that's not a terrible time
No,
slot.
not the.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what is the main the main TV spot on Mexico, because it it it, it, it is very different around the world. It is not necessarily like everybody watches TV during the same time in every single country. Let me give you a example. So pro wrestling over here is always like in the top five must see TV shows during the week, right? But believe it or not, wrestling over here is air Sundays at the middle of the day at 12 during the middle of the day from 12 to 1, and sometimes it is from 11 to 1 during the day. And when there was like the wrestling war over here, it was World Wrestling Council. That's the one with Carlos Colon,
Yes.
and the other one with Victor Jovica, Savio Vega, and the guys from Los Boricuas and Abyss and all those guys. uh World Wrestling Council was from 11 to 1, and IWA was from 1 to 3 during the day. That was and they were the top 3 must watch show in the island. But it was at the middle of the day, something that you will never see happen in the US. So
I do remember. I can't remember if it was on Galavision or Univision. I do remember AAA. Their TV show was on Sundays. I want to say around like 1 to 3 or 1 to 4. It was a really long 3 hour block of wrestling, but I do remember AAA being on there. I don't know if it's still on there, but I do remember watching it and seeing some of the wrestlers. I did remember. I remember Vampiro was over there for a bit. So I get what you're saying when it comes to that, I should say.
yeah.
So, anyways, let's move on to our next bit of news. Matt Hardy.
Oof.
Yeah, he was in an interview, and he was kind of talking. He's been making a lot of stuff on Twitter, and a lot of people think that he's going to be retiring. I don't necessarily think he's retiring. I just think he's leaving WWE, and I think that'll be his last matches in WWE. But he also said he could see himself going back to Impact or Ring of Honor. Robert, what is your thoughts on potentially Matt Hardy coming back to Impact in March when his WWE contract expires?
No, thanks. Not but thanks. I don't, the guy did a lot of harm towards Impact Wrestling when they were rebuilding with Jeff Jarrett and his wife. The type of stuff that she did, there's no going back. And people get like a color rose colored glasses when they look at things. They totally forgot that Reby accused, implied that Impact Wrestling was doing child labor with, the kid. they also forgot that Reby accused Jeff Jarrett of blackmail. Blackmail is a federal crime. Just in case you're wondering, she was basically saying, "Hey, Jeff Jarrett, you're a criminal. That's not good in my book." And on top of that, just in case you haven't forgotten, Reby Hardy was the one who exposed to the world the DUI problem with Jeff Jarrett, who, by the way, a couple of months later ended up, being a total alcoholic. But thank God they don't have anything to do with that, and they didn't help that, really. So no, no, I don't want him. The type of damage he did to the brand is, there's no going back, there's no forgiveness. He went totally too far, and there's no way anyone within the management of Impact Wrestling should trust him of her wife. What are your thoughts on this dude, Matt Hardy, trying to putting that's basically putting out the feelers. That's that is what he's basically doing, putting out the feelers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I definitely know what he's doing. I think that Matt Hardy when I don't think I know he's got a lot of injuries right now. And we kind of knew that, but I do think that he maybe isn't enjoying his WWE run. And I think he probably thought that the Woken gimmick he has in WWE might have done a little bit better than it did. And I think that he probably wants more creative freedom. But I mean, I know he made peace with Ed Nordholm. Ed gave him the gimmick to use, but I also think that if he thinks it's going to be like it was when he was here in 2016 in the early part of 2017, I think he's going to have to think again, because I don't necessarily know if Impact's going to give him that type of freedom. I think Impact is more these days on the matches, and when he was there, it was, I mean, the whole show was basically centered around him, and they get the crazy storylines. Now, I'm sure they could give him some stuff to do. I mean, especially with the Twitch shows and the one night onlys, but I just don't think he's going to get that same type of time that he had in Impact before. So, do I want to see him back? I think Impact could use some more star power. I do realize what Rebby did. Um, but the fact is, like at the time when she made those accusations of Jeff Jarrett, we weren't really exactly sure what what he would that those were true, but it turned out that they were. I put I'm not a huge Matt Hardy fan, but I did like the broken gimmick. I really did. It was something different and totally unexpected, but I don't know how much run you can get out of him. I think he would be there just kind of as comic relief. I don't think he would be put back into the world title discussion by any means, especially with Impact's match quality. I think they're really focusing on that right now. So I'm indifferent to it. I think it would have to be a reduced role, but I'm not opposed to it. Okay, because I do realize that Impact does need some more star power, and they do need some names that people are really familiar with, especially the casual fan. But so that's kind of how I'm at. Rebby, I don't want any part of. Definitely after what she said, but I think if you do bring Matt back, you'd probably have to put her on TV.
Ugh.
So yeah, I would be opposed to doing that. I would be opposed to giving her any type of say. I think she kind of burned that bridge, so to speak.
Yeah, she
So
went too far, man.
She
and
did.
she and that is another thing that people kind of forget. They have like color rose glasses. They don't, they don't remember things. Reby Hardy was a pain in the ass in when she actually started with Impact Wrestling. I don't know if you remember. She even got in some trouble with Awesome Kong, and
She did.
yeah,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
Awesome Kong, beat her up.
Yeah. She grabbed her by the hair, and I think Maxwell was like right there or something.
Yeah.
Or she was pregnant with Max. I can't remember.
No,
It
no,
was
no.
one or the other.
The kid was out.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, there was some beef a long time ago with Rebby Hardy and Awesome Kong.
That's a
Um,
that if you so mira, Reby Hardy is in a very prestigious club of people who have been beaten by Awesome Kong, right? You got
yes.
Reby Hardy and you got Baba the Long Spotch. So, a very good club to be part of, if you were to ask me.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
no kidding.
Ooh,
Two people we can't stand.
ooh, boy.
Oh boy. But yeah, no, you're right. You're right. So I think Matt Hardy, indifferent. I would have to see the terms and how he's going to be used for me to say yes to him. But um, I'm sure it'd be something he'd want because he wouldn't have to wrestle that much like he is in WWE, where he's on the road constantly. So
So Hurls.
yes.
I think we circle around a little bit of an elephant over here, and I want to hear your thoughts. I asked this same question to the taxman, so I want to know what your question is. So there's people that right now feel like Impact Wrestling is lacking when it comes down to star power, and there are two different roads you can go when it comes down to star power. You can either buy them by obviously getting them from somewhere else, or you can either build them. What would you think would be the best direction for you for Impact Wrestling to go? To buy the talent or to build talent into making them as a star?
Well, they're definitely building. They're building quite a few. They're you got, I mean, Pentagon along with MLW and Lucha Underground are really building up really building him up. You got Cage, they're building him up. They're building Sammy Callahan. There's a lot of, I mean, they've been around for a while, but they're not household names by any means. Um, I think that bringing a guy like Jericho is going to help if he does come in, because it's only going to rub off on the guys that you're trying to build, like an Eli Drake and so forth. I think there needs to be a good mix like they had in 2005 to 2009, where they bring in these guys, veterans, but they also are able to mesh well with the younger talent. Like we saw Kevin Nash, he was able to kind of reinvent himself and mesh with the newer talent. Same with Scott Steiner. Booker T kind of did, but he also was kind of sour. Sting did, Kurt Angle did. They all kind of did. So I think if we can get back to that point, I think it would be great. I think Johnny Impact is a solid name, but I honestly think they should bring in a guy like Ryback. I think he would benefit. He would help Impact, and I think that would be a good signing. I'm not saying he's a huge name, but it would be nice. Obviously, CM Punk's probably not going to wrestle ever again, so he's. I mean, that ship has sailed. But uh, they're I think it's a good mix. If you have a good mix, I think it works, because those guys that were in WWE and WCW, have name value. Casual fans know who they are. So whenever you can kind of bring that guy in and put him up against the guy that you're building up, I think that's a solid move. And I think that's kind of what D'Amore and Callis think as well. So it's kind of good to be on the same page that way. What's your thoughts, Robert?
I would say, you know, build them, but it is a tricky situation. If I would say to, hey, let's have someone as a project, the project would be easy. You got Eli Drake, one of the most popular wrestlers. Turn him the fuck face. It is, just the stuff that you could be doing with him as a baby face just write itself off. But you need a big, a bad guy to be the his Yang. So I actually don't know who will be a good match for Eli Drake. Into obviously building Eli Drake as a baby face and having his rival, his arch enemy as a bad guy. But I think when it comes down to wrestling, because the obviously the way I grew up watching wrestling and stuff along those lines, I am of the persuasion that believe that when you're building a wrestler, it's better to build them in pair. Let me explain that idea. So you let's say let's go back in time when it was World Wrestling Federation and they were building Shawn Michaels, and who was his Jan? Bret Hart. And when they were building The Rock during his intercontinental days, Triple H was his Jan. He's like his arch enemy. They also did it with Cena and Randy Orton. So I think that is the dummy proof way of building a star. But I don't actually have in mind who you could build Jin to Yang in order to obviously build the people all the way to the top. But I think that will be a good approach toward things, and not necessarily buy them, but because at the end of the day, some of those people either don't want to be there or just want to be there for the paycheck, or one day, Uncle Beanie offers them a lot of money and you're gonna lose them, and all the time that you invested in them, it is not gonna be that worth it. And if you put that stuff on your page, people are gonna tag you by saying, hey, why are you using somebody else's talent? So not really a good idea. Looking forward and into building your own stars.
Yeah, I agree. Like if you bring in a guy with a bigger name, they have to have the right attitude, and they have to be able to they have to be willing to work with the younger talent. Who are some of the worst signings you think when it came to a bigger name and you brought them into TNA or Impact Wrestling? Who do you think have been the guys that you don't want to, like, using an example of guys who were bad signings for the company that really didn't, all they were there was collecting a paycheck and didn't really give it their best?
It all depends. What actually it rubbed me the wrong way, because I don't want to judge someone's work rate, because I'm not a worker, right? But what it rubbed me the wrong way back in the days was when they were basically just doing a copy paste from their WWE gimmick into their Impact Wrestling persona. So that always run me the wrong way. Let me give you an example. Someone like Mr. Anderson, Mr. Kennedy, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they would have go do the Pope route, they took the Pope, right? And they
Yes.
totally changed him. They rebuilt him into his own image on Impact Wrestling, and the guy got over. But Mr. Anderson, they did like a copy paste, and they added like a dot at the end, so it is a different file, and it was basically the same stuff he was doing over there. Of course, if I want to see that, I will turn to the other promotion. When I see someone jump from WWE to Impact Wrestling, I want them to have a different persona, unless you're one of those guys, let's say like RBD. You're not gonna write a character for RBD. RBD is the way he is. The same goes for Kurt Angle. But if it is a lower down the line character, I think it is good for them to write a whole new character. Hell, they did it with this guy, with EC3. EC3 was just some lower guy on FXW, whatever was the name of that promotion, and he ended up being a world champion on Impact Wrestling. Why? Because they did a rebuild of the guy.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree to an extent. I think though with Mr. Anderson, it was very similar to his WWE character, but I think they took it even further, and I think they went full force with his character. And I actually think he did pretty well. He had some amazing matches with Kurt Angle. I mean, who can forget that cage match
Yeah.
that they had? And that was awesome. But a guy that I think that didn't really give it his all in Impact, and kind of you could tell. I think you mentioned him, Rob Van Dam.
Yeah.
I thought he was all about himself, and I mean, if you look at his win-loss record, he was burying people. He really was,
Yeah.
and for a guy who came up and went to WWE and was kind of getting the shaft, do you think he would have realized, like, hey, we gotta put over people, I just think that there was a lot of times where Rob Van Dam, some of the matches weren't bad. I thought the one where he did win the title over AJ Styles, it was a good match, but it was the wrong booking decision. Clearly, I think at that time, because it just, like, he just got there and he's already winning the title. So, and even when he had to forfeit the title, he never lost it.
Yeah.
So I
So
just think he didn't really benefit the company too much.
I can comment on that. I was deployed during that time, during 2010, early 2010. So from February, I think, all the way to Bound for Glory, I didn't see any of that stuff. I later see like some of the pay per view and stuff like that, but thank God I missed all of that of that shit.
Yeah, it was just like RVD and Jeff Hardy were pushed like super, super quite a bit around that time. And it just kind of got to the point where they were winning all of the time. And, it wasn't the correct direction to take. Those guys already had so much star power already. They should have rubbed it off on some other guys. But I'm just kind of using that as an example of your question of how Impact, should they bring in guys, with name value, or should they build their own guys?
Yeah,
I think
is
they're fine building their own guys, but I think eventually, if you want to crack a rating, and maybe it doesn't matter because you're on Pop TV. I don't know what, they're on the barter deal. Maybe it doesn't matter as much if you're not getting a lot of money from your ratings. So maybe it does benefit you just to kind of keep building upon what you're already doing. But I think eventually, if they do get to a bigger TV network, I think they're going to want some bigger names. And a guy like Matt Hardy certainly doesn't hurt in that regard. So,
yeah.
Robert, I wanted to ask you, without giving any spoilers, how were the Mexico tapings, and from the people that you talked to, how were they received?
Yeah. I talked to someone who did like the two shows. He was on the CMLL 85-year anniversary, and he also went to the Impact tapings the first night, if I'm not mistaken. And the crowd were good, and they have a lot of times. The only thing that it might have rubbed some people the wrong way was a wrestler, right? Who everybody knows him. I'm not gonna say who he is because he's a surprise during the show.
Hmm.
But that person is not the original one, right? It would be like presenting someone like the fake Diesel and the fake Razor Ramon, and the Mexican crowd got into it, and there were people that were robbed the wrong way. But outside of that, everything that I heard was done quite good. And I read the spoilers, and most of the stuff that it is important, it is gonna be done in the back. So that's why you don't see like the big spoilers and stuff along those lines, because they basically recorded basically straight wrestling, and everything else is gonna be done somewhere else. And there's also like a good angle with the OGs versus LAX. They're gonna do something good. Obviously, they're on Mexico,
Right.
so Conan was huge during the '90s in Mexico. Totally huge. So obviously, they were gonna take advantage of that and do and shoot an angle over there. So that so please watch the show. Don't let my opinions discard you from watching the show. Go ahead and watch it for yourself, and maybe next week we can talk about on the HeelCast how you thought about the show.
Yeah, yeah, and there's another bit of news during the tapings. There was a shooting in Mexico City, I believe, at a restaurant. So there was also a shooting, I believe, the night of Slammiversary in Toronto. So Impact has, they've had some bad luck with going over to these cities, and there's been some unfortunate circumstances. Usually, Mexico City is one of the safer Mexico cities there is in the whole country. So it's too bad that that stuff happens, especially when your Impact Wrestling superstars are over there. So,
Yeah.
but uh, nonetheless, all right. So these next three stories I have are the three biggest ones we have of the week. First one, let's start it off with Chris Jericho. Robert, do you think he's going to be at Bound for Glory?
Yes, I do think he's gonna show up at Bound for Glory so far, but I'm not sure if he's ever gonna actually perform for Impact Wrestling. I'm like 50-50, but I'm almost like 99% sure that Chris Jericho's gonna show up at Bound for Glory. How about you, Hurls?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of swaying that way. I did make a bet, I think, on the last HeelCast that he was going to show up. So I got to stick by my word. I got to stand by it. I think Jericho, they've been giving way too many hints, uh, all over social media, even on Impact. I think he's showing up. What he's going to do, I don't know. I think he comes in as a face. I could be wrong. Maybe he does come in as a heel, but Impact has so many heels right now. Another one would just kind of be overkill, but I guess I really don't care, because he's actually going to finally show up in an Impact ring. So I think that's pretty cool. Uh, but yes, I do think he's going to show up as well. And so it's going to be pretty exciting when it finally does happen. So I think we're both on the same page there. Who would you like to see him feud with if he does come in?
I will say like Jericho, Eli Drake. That would be the best. Like use bang for your buck will be my the expression that I will do. Bang for your buck. because at the end of the day you can put him like with Sammy Callahan, but I don't see, Sammy as a big main event investment in the same way that I see Eli Drake. So that will be my the way that I will do it. And who do you think in Impact Wrestling will be a good dancing partner to Chris Jericho?
I think the obvious one is Eli Drake. He's really kind of lost in the shuffle right now, and that's why I'm thinking they would pair him up with Eli Drake to kind of get him focused again on a bigger feud. But yeah, Sammy Callahan's the other one, just from the promos that's been going on with Sammy kind of threatening to take over the cruise and whatnot. Those are the two really big ones to me. But you could also see something with like Pentagon too, because he did dress up as Pentagon at All In. So those are like the three guys I think that have the most, the biggest shot of Jericho coming in there, because Jericho's going to come in, he's going to do something big. They're not just going to waste him on a guy that's just an up and comer. I think he's going to be a well known, established guy in the Impact ranks, and who better? Um, I guess they could always throw a wild card and he could interfere in the Aries and Johnny Impact match. So I'm not sure if Jericho and John Morrison had a match in WWE. I would think they would have, but
Mm.
you just never know. But I think those are the most likely scenarios. So it's going to be interesting, but I can't wait to see it. I'm a huge Chris Jericho fan, always have been. All right. So the next one, let's go with the Hall of Fame. The news when you heard the Hall of Fame was coming back, were you pretty happy about that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Quite happy because I'm gonna go totally honest on you, right? One of the things the old regime did, right, and I don't blame them at the end of the day because I get it, is that all of the guys that they inducted into the Hall of Fame outside of the founding father Jeff Jarrett were all ex WWE wrestlers. So the way that I see this current crop of the Impact Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2018 will be like the litmus test, right? Who are they gonna induct? Are they gonna induct another former WWE wrestler, or they finally gonna induct a TNA original? That is the litmus test. What are your thoughts on on the return of the Hall of Fame, the Impact Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2018?
I was super excited when they finally brought it back, because they were gonna have it back last year, and then I guess the I don't know, something fell apart. I think they were supposed to have Jarrett was the rumor for last year, and I don't exactly know what happened, what derailed it, but um could they could go with him again, I suppose, this year, because he technically, him and Jeff founded it, and Jeff's already in the Hall of Fame. So you could do Jarrett. It makes sense. You could also do Abyss. He's a big name that he's not really doing anything right now. I don't know if he's retired. I don't think he is. I think he'll
No.
be back at some point. But I would like to have it a guy who's not really active in the company. Jerry Lynn was a guy that I was always thinking should get it, just because of how pivotal he was in the X division, and he's retired, so it'd make a lot of sense to do him. But the fact that the Hall of Fame is coming back is awesome, and I hope they keep it a yearly thing going forward for now. So I'm very happy with them bringing that back. And who are your guesses as to
Mm.
who this possibly could
Mm,
be.
my pick would be that my first one would be the monster Abyss, and my second guess will be, I guess, the cowboy James Storm, but I'm leaning towards Abyss. But I could be wrong. They could be inducting Dixie Carter or something along those lines. But I'm expecting the new management to do something a little bit different. Let's say if they go for Jarrett or go for someone from the original crop of Impact talent, that would be a go for me. But let's say they induct a ex WWE wrestler, that let's say Christian Cage, who had an amazing run. I'm not saying that he was not a excellent talent. He was really, really goddamn good, and you should check out the list of his DVDs, the DVD that he did, and the list of his matches. They were stellar. But at the end of the day, he have that ex WWE label, and there's nothing you can do about it. So it is time to break the cycle, and basically say to your current talent who the first time they were saw on TV were under the banner of Impact Wrestling, you will be saying to them, hey, stay with us, and if you have a career with us, you're gonna get into the Hall of Fame. Because at the end of the day, when they do that shit of only inducting ex WWE talent, what you're telling your talent is, hey, if you one day want to celebrate your career and have a Hall of Fame, your time over here doesn't matter that much. You might need to go with Beans, and then when you return, maybe we're gonna put you in the Hall of Fame. But if you're not from the other side of town, it is we're not gonna put you in the in the Hall of Fame. So I didn't like that mentality, and it is like WWE's kind of supremacist type of attitude. So no, I don't like it. So hopefully the Don Callis and Scott Damore and Nick Nordholm and the people who are running things right now have a new vision, and finally they break that curse and finally put a TNA original in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I think Don Callis
Who do
got the
you
more.
have? Who you
Well,
yeah.
I think they got their finger on the pulse. Okay, I think they've been making the right moves and winning the fans' trust back. I think that's a no brainer with what they've been doing. The guy I really have, I don't think it's going to be Jerry Lynn. I think they are going to go with the Splash. I think Dixie Carter is a very likely candidate. If you notice her on social media,
Yeah.
she really promoted the New York tapings. She's been promoting Impact again. Like right when she sold the company to Ed and whatnot, she has been not really. She's been like plugging. She plugged WWE a lot, but now she's back to plugging Impact again. So
Dixie
she's
Carter is
definitely,
returning inbound,
yeah.
return inbound.
I mean, I don't. I really hope she wouldn't have much to do with it, but I think she's definitely a likely candidate. I think she's got as good of a chance as anybody else. I really do, and I think as much as I would like it to be Jerry Lynn because I think he deserves it. Biss I think has still got more to go. I don't think they want to put him in yet. I don't think they want to put James Storm in yet either. So yeah, it's very tough. I'm going to say the safe choice is probably going to be either Dixie Carter or Jerry Jarrett. I think those are two safe picks, and you can't really go wrong with either one.
How
So
about Iron Mike Tenay?
he's another one. He's another one that you could easily put in. He has not been active. He's been gone now for almost 2-3 years now. That's
Yeah.
been crazy to think about, but uh, yeah, he's one that definitely I could see them. I could see his name getting put in the Hall of Fame.
He,
I also wanted to just kind of add to your comment about them doing mostly WWE guys. I think that was kind of a shot to try to get Sting and Kurt Angle in their Hall of Fame before they got put in the WWE Hall of Fame. I think that was kind of the mindset there.
Yeah.
But I think D'Amore and Callis they're going to make a good pick. I think no matter what, I don't think they can really go wrong with it. I think people are just excited to see the Hall of Fame back. So, I guess this next story, which is big, very big, and we're going to do a lot of speculating with this, could tie into our last story about the Hall of Fame. It was reported that before Impact went over to Mexico, that Impact officials Ed Nordholm and Scott D'Amore met with WWE officials who were not Vince McMahon, but apparently they were Triple H's crew. Now, if you have been reading lately, Triple H's crew has been consisting of former Impact employees, which have been Jeremy Borash, I think Paradise, the wrestler who they just signed. He's part of Triple H's crew. I'm sure there's many more that I'm forgetting, but I'm not exactly sure if Triple H was present at this meeting. But these two were in a meeting in Stamford, Connecticut at the WWE headquarters, and they were in a room discussing who knows what. We have no idea what this meeting was. According to reports, it was just for everybody to kind of get a chance to talk about the two companies and where they're going, I guess. But as far as specifics goes, I don't think anybody knows at this point because they're kind of keeping a tight lid on this. Robert, let's start the can of worms here. What the heck could WWE and Impact Wrestling possibly be talking about?
This secret meeting at the WWE headquarters. So what I think is it is more likely like more footage. Like they need more footage, like for AJ and for Samoa Joe and people like that, and they want to do something with that. But I don't see actually being something that big, especially if Triple H was not there and Sherman McMahon was not there. So that would be my guess. It will the other idea that I'm getting, because I shot a video about that today. The other idea that people had in mind is that they're trying to clear the air out before using Chris Jericho, basically doing a filler test. But hell, who knows? What is your conspiracy theory when it comes down to the world the world the sorry, the Impact Wrestling officials no, sorry, the Impact Wrestling officials in a secret meeting at the WWE headquarters? What is your conspiracy about that?
I think it could be a number of things. We were talking about the Hall of Fame. Obviously, WWE has a lot of guys that have a ton of history in Impact Wrestling. AJ Styles, Bobby Roode, Samoa Joe, Eric Young. The list goes on and on and on and on. Those are the most, the four most likely that would, Impact would want anything to do with. But I don't necessarily think that's going to be it. I really don't. I could be wrong. I could definitely be wrong about what that meeting's taking place. The footage thing, I don't really think that's it either, because why would they need to meet in person? They allowed them to use Matt Hardy's The Broken footage on their DVD. They allowed AJ Styles footage on the network for Table of Three.
But
I
I think is something longer, not necessarily a couple of clips here and there.
You think it's a series?
Yeah.
I just don't see I guess I just don't see the benefit of Impact to do that, because if WB is just going to show a bunch of stuff on their network, what's going to make people want to buy the GWN? Because ultimately, you're trying to get more subscriptions to the GWN, correct? I mean, that's kind of,
Yeah.
if you make any type of business decision with like that, you're not going to give them the full brand. You want them to just subscribe to you. So there's got to be some benefit for Impact here. I guess that could be it. I don't know. So do you think there's a possibility of a co-branded event ever happening?
No, 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 no. The why most likely it's very simple reason, the paperwork. Let's do the clock back, right? Last summer, Sexy Star injured Rosemary intentionally on the ring. Let's say, what if you do a co-branded event and one of your talents goes ape shit and injures, uh, let's say, Impact Wrestling talent? Who's gonna fix that? Who's in charge of that? Just due to the contracts and the all the shit yeah, and on top of that you got the TV contracts, and they are basically personalities and blah blah blah. No, 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 the paperwork is gonna be a nightmare. And if God knows if something bad's happen, it's gonna be a hell to fix everything. And to get the paperwork straight up. So I don't ever see that type of stuff ever happen in mainstream professional wrestling. Yes, I do. You could see that on a indie, between two indies, or between a mainstream promotion and a indie, but not between two mainline, big time wrestling promotions like World Wrestling Entertainment and Impact Wrestling. What,
W-
what,
I well,
how do you see it?
Sexy Star though, you got to understand, she was almost blackballed from the business after that incident. I think that was kind of an isolated incident. And let's not forget, we also have New Japan and Ring of Honor that have that partnership. We did have WCW and New Japan for a while as well in the 97, 98. I don't know. I don't know. I agree it's unlikely, but we have to understand that this is Triple H's crew. Triple H does not think like Vince McMahon does. And I would not be shocked if something like that happens. And there's speculation that this is possibly taking place to hurt Ring of Honor and New Japan because of the whole Madison Square Garden incident. I don't know. I don't know. This is crazy. I can't even, imagine to think what they're actually discussing. It could be literally anything. Sure, the footage that's very likely. It's likely, but I just don't see why you would have to have a meeting in front of all these people to just talk about footage when you've already given them footage before. I mean, you could do that over the phone. Why would they want to meet Impact officials in person? I just think that's like, why? You could do it over the phone, So I think there's got to be something bigger to this. And I don't know what it's going to be, but I think these two are planning something. And it's not a sale. I don't think it's a sale at all. But there's got to be something where it's going to benefit both of these companies. And I think that's the real intriguing part. And if you guys are listening, I want you guys to comment what you think this partnership possibly is, because we've heard so many different theories on why these two are meeting. And I don't think it's a sale. I think Impact is, from all accounts, they've stopped the bleeding of money. Correct, Robert? You've heard that?
Yeah, yeah, I haven't heard anything bad in quite a while. So eh, I
Okay.
know, I know there's Impact Wrestling is kind of cheap at the moment, but yeah, you need to be cheap in order to be in business. I get that. But
Yeah,
so far they are not having money problems. As far as we the fans know.
they're getting money too, because they are having events that are selling tickets. So, and they got the GWN. They're making more money than I think Impact did in 2015 and 16, and probably 17 as well. So I think they're doing something right. I think they have stopped the hemorrhaging of money. So I don't think there's a reason to sell the library. I don't think that's what this is about. Um, I think there's got to be something mutual that's impacts, that's intriguing with this whole scenario. And could a partnership of some sort be realized? It's possibly it's possible. We've seen some crazy things in wrestling. I know we're in that mindset where WWE thinks they're the only thing and they don't want to think about anything else. But if WWE has some advantages to it, or if they find something that they can use, they'll negotiate. So I think it's really intriguing, and hopefully we'll find some more light on this. But the fact that they met in person, I think that speaks volumes, and I think they are definitely working on something. And I think it's honestly, I don't think Impact fans should be scared. I don't think we should be scared. I think we're doing well enough now. We're not talking about a sale. We're talking about something else. And I think this could lead to bigger things. And I think it's in Impact's benefit right now to be friends with everybody and not go to war with anybody. I think it's really helped out so far. So I think WWB sees that, and I think they are taking notice. So that's why they had that discussion. So that's my thoughts on it. Robert, you want to add anything else to that?
No, I speak already in my mind. Well, we got, I guess, our last piece of news, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's all I have. If you have anything else, bring it to the table. But I think that's really it. And remember, comment on the YouTube comments. Comment what you think they're possibly meaning about, because it's so vague at this point. No one's getting any information about it. Hopefully, we'll get some details going forward. But I think it could be quite interesting. So, all right, Robert. We don't really need to talk about Bound for Glory quite yet because we're going to do a preview show on that. But any final thoughts for the night before we say goodbye?
Okay, my last thoughts will be for the audience who's listening all the way through. First of all, thank you for listening. And my second question will be, do you like this the type of setup of being news roundup by the HeelCast? So also let us know in the comment section so we could adjust fire and bring you things like that more frequently. So that's all the thoughts that I have on Impact Wrestling as for today. So I had a blast doing this one. I'm tired as hell. I'm starting to train for uh 5K run. So you could already imagine how beat up I am. But obviously, I'm doing the best that I can in order to, bring you the best show and podcast that is possible for me to do. So, thank you a lot for putting up with me and putting up with the HeelCast and Hurls. So, thanks to everybody who listened all the way through. And that's it for me. Take it home, Hurls.
Yeah, I guess just my final thoughts are that we're going to be hopefully getting on a regular pattern here with the HeelCast brought to you every week, and then we will include the Impact reviews next week. Obviously, we're not going to have a plethora of news stories like we did this week, so the news might be a little light some weeks. So we'll have to start, talking about the shows again. And next week, though. We have somebody new that's going to be coming on, and so we'll keep that a surprise for next week. But that's it for me, for Robert, for Hurls. This is the HeelCast. We hope that you have a good week, and we hope you enjoyed the show.
Goodbye.
Peace.
Peace.